Air for Arts is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creatives, artists, and innovators. We strive to provide a platform that supports educational, inspirational, and supportive programs for our community to enjoy and be inspired by. Through our digital platform and community events, we help emerging creatives and seasoned innovators share the fruits of their efforts. Join us as we take you on an inspirational journey through the arts to spark your imagination.
My name is David Nethery, and I'm president of Air for Arts. Welcome to this segment of Storytime. A Storytime, it focuses on the storytelling tradition, whether it's oral or written. And this year we have selected a series of award-winning children's books by Nancy Churnin. Nancy's books are delightfully educational and informative, and they appeal to children of all ages. Susan Morrow is the executive director of Air for Arts, and it is her honor to introduce Nancy and our special guest for today's book.
Thank you, David. My delightful pleasure to introduce Nancy Churnin, who is presenting one of her amazing books, Manjhi Moves a Mountain. Nancy's special guest today is Linda Wachel, who is the director of admissions at Oak Hill Academy in Dallas, a private school for children with learning differences. Our honor to present Nancy and Linda.
Hello, Nancy Churnin here, and I'm so happy to be back at Air for Arts. I love sharing stories with all of you every month, and I'm really excited about sharing Manjhi Moves a Mountain, which is so very dear to my heart. Manjhi Moves a Mountain is the second book that I've had published. I have 10 in all. And I found out, I was inspired to write this book after reading a story about this man in Bihar, India, who had spent 22 years chiseling a path through a 300-foot mountain so the kids in his poor village could get to school on the other side, so the sick could get to a doctor, so the elderly could get to markets. Manjhi could get over the mountain. He was able to climb it and go to work each day, but he was worried about those who couldn't. I was so moved by this story, I just wanted to share it. And even though I didn't even know if there would be an audience for it, if anybody would understand what I saw in it, what I felt in it, I just felt very passionately about sharing this story. It meant so much to me, this reminder of how important, the importance of doing for others and of perseverance, because sometimes you may have a wonderful idea about how to make a positive difference, and it may not go well at first, or it may take a long time, and it's easy to be, sometimes people will laugh at you, you may be tempted to give up, but if you keep going, you will get there. And because the service part of this book was so very important to me, I did something very unusual with the support of my editor, Marissa Moss. And at the very back of the book is the Move Your Own Mountain project. Very often a project goes in the teacher guide. It does not go in the book itself. But Manjhi, for me, was inseparable from what he did, what we can all do if our hearts are big enough. And I'm so thrilled to be here with Linda Wachel, because one of the most meaningful experiences I have had with this book was bringing it to Oak Hill Academy at the invitation of Linda. And Linda, it wasn't just one class I presented to. She saw the value of Manjhi's message for the entire school. I got to spend the whole day at Oak Hill Academy, the whole day, and I got to spend it with everyone from kindergarten through high school. We shared the book. We talked about what Manjhi did, why he did it, the value of perseverance, the importance of helping others. I think Oak Hill Academy is a fabulous school. It's a school for kids with learning differences. And I think all too often people look at kids with learning differences and they think about what they can do for them. But these kids are so special. they were thinking about what they could do for others. Linda, will you join me and chat with me about, well, first of all, why did you want me to bring Manjhi to your campus?
Thank you, Nancy, for inviting me to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this project and what y'all are doing. We invited you as part of our Literacy Live project. It's an event that we do every year to celebrate literacy during the month of October, which is National Dyslexia Awareness Month. And we found out about you, I believe, from Interrobang Books. And it was just a perfect match for us that year. Our students loved hearing your story. We had a hard time choosing. I had a hard time to choose which one of your books we would focus on, but Manjhi really spoke to me, and in many ways how that impacts our students, both inspiration to work in their community, but also just to persevere. So that's why we wanted you to come and speak with us.
It was just such a joy. I could just see the light come on in the eyes of your students. They really, I mean, you teach them, I think you must teach and inspire them every day to believe in themselves and what they can do. And, another thing that you shared with me that I hadn't been aware of, or I couldn't have predicted at the time, was you said they had some challenges shortly after the visit, and the book was a help to them, the message of the book.
Absolutely. The first message about perseverance and I can do hard things, it worked for all of our students. As you mentioned, our students have learning challenges. Life is not easy for them on a daily basis. Hard things for them might be learning how to express their wants and needs, if they have a speech language delay, or reading or math. Those are really sometimes struggles for our students. And actually our second grade teacher told me that for months afterwards, the students, when they would get to something really hard in class and want to give up, they would all look at each other and say, what would Manjhi do? And so they would move forward with their goals. But the year you came in 2019, we had just had a fire on our campus in our main building where we had planned on hosting you. So we had to find a new location in another part of our building, which worked great. But it ended up dislocating our students, our high school students, for about 4 or 5 weeks. We were very fortunate to find a church just down the road from us, about half a mile, Cochrane Chapel, and they allowed us to rent some space from them. But right after that, after you came to us, the tornado came through our neighborhood. It missed us, thank goodness, but it impacted many of our families. And then in March, we had the pandemic. So it was a really difficult year for our students, in addition to the things that they deal with on a day-to-day basis.
One of the reasons I love to write books, and Manjhi was very special to me, is that I do feel that, words are not something you can taste or touch or feel or wear, but they really do. They can make you, I mean, telling stories of people who had courage like Manjhi, who had perseverance, who cared about others. I mean, those do build strength within, don't they? I mean, you can't see it, you can't touch it, but it makes a difference of how we face life. And I'm just so gratified that his story was helpful to your students.
I think just the fact that he was willing to continue year after year after year, and many of those years with no help from anyone else, they were actually ridiculing him for what he was attempting to do, that he was willing to persevere and carry on. That was an important message for our students and really inspired them in their daily tasks.
I'm just so glad to hear that. And beyond, and then you went above and beyond Tell me how you came up with the idea of your Move Your Own Mountain project.
Well, a lot of it was inspiration from you. After reading the book and hearing about your project, we started looking around for ways that we could make an impact in our communities, that our students could give back. And we landed on Vogel Alcove, which is an organization here that provides a preschool for children who are homeless. We had a little bit of relationship. The executive director's son had attended Oak Hill years ago. So I reached out to her, and she told us about one of their great needs is as their students go home each day, they might be going home to no dinner. So they love to have what they call bye-bye bags. And as they're leaving, they get to grab a bye-bye bag that has some fruit, some protein, some healthy snacks in it. That they can eat in the car. They might also have a long drive to wherever they're going. So we kind of took that idea, and it was October. She told us the Halloween week was available, so we chose that, added a few extra stickers and toys and things like that. Our students each decorated a bag in whatever manner they wanted to. And added these different items in that. But the whole campus collected the food items. We went to Chick-fil-A, and they donated some of their books that they put in their meals. So that made a little extra toy to go in there. So we really enjoyed putting it together. And then our high school students actually assembled the bags and delivered them to Vogel Alcove. That was a really moving experience for them because they got to tour Vogel Alcove's campus, see some of the classes, see the students who would be enjoying those afternoon snacks or light meals that we were sending home with them.
Oh, that's marvelous. And I remember seeing pictures of those bags and the inspirational sayings, the little quotes that they put on the bags. And I thought, how they're using their words to lift the hearts of others. And there was just so much love and attention to it. I mean, it was, and they were doing it. They were bringing it in. They were assembling it.
Right.
You even, I think one of your very talented teachers even created a mountain, right, out of paper mache over the door so that they felt that they walked through the mountain when they exited their doors to bring the bags.
Yes, they did.
And it said, we can move
we were in meeting. Yeah, we were meeting in our science center that had sliding glass doors. And one of our teachers is just one of the most creative people I have ever met. And I had asked her, I said, do you think you could? And she goes, oh, let me think about it. And she thought and thought, and she came up with a way to do some crumpled paper around it so that as they came through those doors, it actually looked like they were walking through the mountain on the path that Manjhi had made.
Oh, it was just
we
wonderful because it's a real tactile experience. And then, so they got to actually meet the kids at the Vogel Alcove. What was that like? I'm sure that the kids were delighted to meet your students.
I think so. I think they were. Our students, it was just such a great experience for them and good for their self-esteem and their personal growth to realize, to think outside themselves and to realize that there are, as challenging as they think their lives might be on a daily basis, there are others who are facing even bigger challenges than what we face. And they were just really happy that they could reach out and do some little something to help their day go easier.
And isn't that true? I mean, I think you see that as an educator clearly because you encourage service, you care about that. That, you know, when we do for others, I mean, not only are we putting more good in the world, but it's actually very empowering, isn't it? It's a reminder that we can all make a difference. I mean, I go back and I think about Manjhi and why I wanted to write about him. And I think one of the things that appealed to me so much was how ordinary he was. So I always like to emphasize he wasn't big, he wasn't strong, he wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, he wasn't a king, he wasn't a president. He just had an idea of how he could help his community. and nothing could stop him.
Mm-hmm.
He just kept going, and it didn't
Right.
matter if other people didn't get it, and it didn't matter if other people. I always love this. When I did the research, I found out there was an interview that was translated into English, and the interviewer asked Manjhi, "Well, how did it make you feel when people laughed at you? I mean, didn't that make you want to give up?" And he said, "No, that made me want to do it even more." And I thought that's a good lesson
Yeah.
for all of us, because whenever you're doing something new or a little different, you can be laughed at. And I think um, all kids know what it's like to be laughed at. I mean, I think, those who learn differently are a little bit, or can be vulnerable to other people
Mm-hmm.
not understanding and being
Mm-hmm.
supportive. But you know what? It's actually true of all kids. I see kids being laughed at because their hair is straight, or their hair is curly, or they're tall, or they're
Mm-hmm.
short, or they're skinny, or they're wide. Whatever it is, you can be laughed at for any reason, and it's so important to develop inner strength,
Right. It
right?
really builds character. It certainly does. And our students, at our end of the year awards ceremony this year, we talked about the fact that this year they had built character in spades. They had many opportunities to practice flexibility. We've been had some virtual times throughout the year. We stayed on campus as much as we could, but just like everyone, we did have to put together a virtual platform. So they really do. Uh, at Oak Hill, everyone is working on some kind of challenge, um, and we celebrate those differences. Just like I'm wearing glasses and you're not. That doesn't make one of us any better than the other, but it shows us how we can help each other. And our students really celebrate those differences and realize that that's going to mean that they're going to have a strength in another area.
I love that, and they certainly showed that. They
Yeah.
certainly showed that. Look how they made a difference in the lives of those children at Vogel Alcove. And you told me earlier, Linda, that when they were relocated, they couldn't be on campus, and
Right.
they were at the church. They actually found a way to help there as well.
They did. They did. During this past year, because of our protocols related to COVID, they weren't able to do externships and get out into the community as much as they would like to. But because of the relationship that they were able to build through that hardship of a fire where we were relocated to Cochrane Chapel, they found Cochrane Chapel has an organization they call Cochrane Kitchen, and monthly they have opportunity to help feed the homeless. And our students and their parents volunteered to participate in that because of the relationship they had built with Cochrane Kitchen, and because of their desire to help the community that they had originally learned through Manjhi and their project with Vogel
I'm just so
Alcove.
thrilled to hear that. And what you're doing as an educator, Linda. I mean, I know you're director of admissions, but you played many roles in the educational um, the educational life of these students, and
That's
also
true.
working
That's
actively
true.
in the Park Cities Church Library Ministry as well. You know what the difference that books
That's
and
right.
words can mean to others, and I just love what you're teaching them, encouraging them in terms of character, because I feel this is true of all children. I mean, what we learn in school is important. Certainly, what we learn academically is important, and we need to have a good groundwork
Hmm.
to enter certain careers. Certain fields of study are more important than others. But there's one thing that's universally important, and that's character, because character is what we're going to need
Hmm.
whatever we do. And for many of us, I mean, I hope you don't sit me down and ask me to do any calculus, even though I took calculus, because I don't really remember anything except that there was a graph. But I
Exactly.
hope I remembered about what I learned about character and what kind of a person I wanted to be and what I wanted to bring to the world, and I brought that into why I write about the people I do. I mean, I look for people who inspire me, whom hope will inspire the kids. And I think what you're teaching them and encouraging them in terms of character, they're going to have that their whole lives long. I mean, you're going to have to say goodbye to them at graduation, but you've planted something that's going to grow and flower and help the world.
You're right. You're right. And those seniors that graduated this year were juniors last year that went through all of those challenges, and they talked about how much what better they were as a result of it, that they had really learned a lot through those challenges, and that they felt like they were ready to go out and start their next chapter. Many of them, some will be going on to college, some will be looking for careers. And so I think and hope that what we've provided them at Oak Hill is going to go with them. But I think the message of Manjhi will be with
Linda,
them
that just means the world to me, because that's why I wrote that book. And as I said, when I wrote it, I didn't know if anybody would get what I was getting. And I just kind of went into it with trust and faith that what Manjhi was doing, the way he was resonating in my heart, that others would feel that. And you, the fact that it resonated with you, and then through you brought it to your students. That's just everything. That's just everything.
Well, Nancy, what I love about all of your books, and one of the reasons it was so hard for us to choose, is that each one focuses on someone that we've never heard of before. It's not, in my library, I have a dozen books on Abraham Lincoln or George Washington, or you can name 1,000 people. But these are stories they've never heard before, people they've never heard about. And you're right, many of them are just average people that are learning how to make a difference in the world. And that's such an inspirational message for our students, that they can go out, they don't have to be president of the United States to make a difference in our world. And I think that's really important.
It's like you're reading my heart. It's like my heart is an open book and you are reading it, Linda. That's exactly it. And it's just such a tiny percent that are going to be, on the television, or be famed or lifted up.
Right.
But the world really requires all of us. We are all important. I mean, each person is a miracle when you think about it. That any of us are even here defies the odds. And so, and I think we're each here for a reason, and each one of us is unique. And we were, made unique, and our difference is often our gift.
Absolutely.
Manjhi was living in a village. He was the only one who saw what could be. I mean, they were living with this mountain. I mean, there's a line that the mountain is there before you're born and after you die. No one can move a mountain.
Right.
But it takes someone to say, yes, I can. With a hammer and a chisel. Yeah. And if I don't have a hammer and chisel, I'm going to sell my 3 goats to buy a used hammer and chisel. And it just saying that was because he thought differently. He saw differently. And we each have something. We have to look in our hearts, right? Mm-hmm. How we see differently and think differently. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've experienced that with your children, with your students. And I hope that they appreciate that they are each so special, and they each have something so special to give, because they're seeing the world differently, and they'll have different gifts to bring to the world because of it.
Yes, absolutely. I think Manjhi's story also reminds me, and we've probably all heard this, but the thought about planting a tree. If you're my age, you're probably not going to ever sit under the shade of that tree, but the importance is to go ahead and do it anyway, because there are others that come after us who will benefit from that. And I think that was an important message from Manjhi as well.
Absolutely. Yes. That you're so right. He did it initially to help his wife, and his wife didn't live long enough to see the completion, but he kept going, because what he started for his wife, he wanted to help the people he could help, the other people in his village. You find out more about that in the back matter. And I have to say, another fun thing I got to do, and this was just so much fun, was to show how Manjhi has connected with other communities. Like we got to share the Braille edition, right? And your students got to
Oh,
feel the
yes.
Braille bumps, and we passed
Yes.
that all around.
Our students loved
Yes,
that.
and then we had so much
Right.
fun because Room to Read has translated it into so many languages, and you ended up having a parent who was visiting who read the Hindi, a page in the Hindi edition, right?
Actually, she was one of our
your
teachers. One of our teachers, Dr. Vahi, yes. And so that was fun for them to get to hear her read that.
Yeah,
in
and
our
that was,
language.
that was another thing that I was hoping that they could see the beauty of another culture, the beauty of other languages, that heroes are everywhere, and that they have all different, they come from all different places, they look different ways, and that actually the bottom line is though that we can all be heroes, and your kids your
Right.
students stepped up. When you sent me those pictures, my heart just started flying. I went, they are all
Right.
Manjis.
They loved that. But they really did enjoy seeing and hearing about your process for your writing process, and then the publishing process, and how a book can get made into all these different languages, and even in Braille. That was an important part, and that's always been kind of our goal behind Literacy Live. We've had authors and we've had illustrators, but we want them to understand the importance of literacy, and the fact that they can be inspired to write or draw themselves. And so many of them used their art skills on those bye-bye bags, and some went back in the classroom, and our teachers used that as an inspirational point to encourage their writing, and help to teach the structure of writing as well, based on seeing what
And
you
I
have
think
provided.
you were kind enough to show me some of the books that your kids have made, and the drawings. And I also had so much fun sharing Danny Popovici's illustrations. And we had some laughs about him too, right? Because
Yes.
I would say to them, did I say that there were constellations in the sky? And of course, and of course that was part of, but they liked those constellations, right? From Danny Popovici. The
Right.
illustrator tells his or her own story, because some of your kids will be more comfortable with words, and some may be more comfortable with images. Some of them may be more comfortable with music or sound. It's just a reminder there are different ways to express yourself.
Right. Exactly. And that's our whole point of Literacy Live, is we want to inspire that, and encourage them to read, and to want to learn to read, but also to write, and to draw. They love hearing how you coordinate with the illustrator to try and share what you wanted. It's hard to imagine how that process works if you haven't been a part of it, but that was really interesting.
I want to thank you again, Linda. Can you tell me? You are such a gifted educator. I can feel your passion for what you do for your students. Can you tell me what inspired you to go into education? Um,
Uh, well, I got there in a roundabout way. My original background, my college training, was in computer information systems. So I had a whole nother career, and then I took a break to raise my children. And as a part of that, I volunteered in their library at their school, and ended up becoming a librarian, in the sense of the word, that I was a mom who likes to read, is what I always say. I loved it. I loved helping children find books to read that were on their level. I loved that child that would come in and couldn't find books fast. They were just going through everything I had in the library. So that's how I got into education, and then from there moved into admissions, which I love as well, helping families find the right learning environment that will meet their child's needs. But once I got to Oak Hill, our students are just such an inspiration. It's fun to watch them under the help of our teachers, who are so loving and nurturing and caring and talented, to watch them grow. You know, a child who will hardly look you in the eye the first time they come, and then see them dancing at our talent show a few years later. It's really
Well,
a
you know,
joy.
Linda, you move mountains. You move mountains every day. And I am really grateful to you for inviting me into Oak Hill Academy and allowing me to assist and like give a few, hit a few chips off the mountain. But that's what you're doing every day,
Right.
day in and day out, like Manjhi, moving those mountains, just as your students are. And again, it's a joy to play an assisting role, and I'm so glad.
Well,
Manjhi.
thank you. You are our guest of honor.
It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to know if I've helped a little bit, and it mainly like Manjhi has, because my role is pretty much I feel just to try and channel the message of the people I write about, because I didn't move the mountain, but I'm in awe of what he did and wanted to share the light he brought to the world, and that shines a light for you and your students. That's everything to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the message that you put out there for all of our children to read. Children and adult children, I will say. I think our adults enjoyed Manjhi as much as the children
I'm
did.
so happy to hear that. Thank you again, and for all you do. As I said, every day you move mountains, and
Oh, well, thank
yeah,
you.
and I
Thank you.
value so much what you do, what educators, librarians do, what parents do. It's the most important job, because this is our future. And yes, you are planting you talk
It's
about
true.
planting trees, with taking care of the kids, you are planting trees, right? And yes, that
Absolutely.
will bloom tomorrow.
Absolutely. Every now and then they'll come back as adults, and we get the joy of seeing where life has taken them and what they have been able to accomplish based on the foundation that they received at Oak Hill. That's always
And
very
I'm just,
rewarding.
as I said, thrilled to be part of it. I look forward to hearing more about the ways that your kids are moving mountains, because I know they're going to continue to move them. Because it's
Well, thank you. We hope that next year we'll be able to get out and about in the community a little bit more, and we will definitely be putting together some service
I
projects.
look forward to hearing about them. And again, any way I can help and support with Manjhi or any of the other books, I am there for you. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful.
Thank
Thank you,
you so
Nancy.
much, Linda. It's a joy to spend time with you.
Susan, this was a remarkable story about perseverance and giving. And Linda's students certainly demonstrated how we are all capable of moving our own mountains.
David, I echo all that you said about today's conversation. Truly moving. I welcome each of you to explore Nancy's website, nancychurnin.com. Nancy will have a total of 10 books by the end of 2021, all of which are described on her site. Further, there's information on how to obtain free teacher's guides and project outlines for students along with scheduling Nancy for presentations at schools and libraries and other venues. Next month, Nancy will present another delightful and inspiring story, Irving Berlin, the immigrant boy who made America sing. I encourage all of you to go to Air for Arts website, airforarts.org, for details about upcoming Storytime presentations. Thank you, everyone, for being with us.